As a kid in the 80s, I grew up on Star Wars. Empire Strikes Back? That was the peak of sci-fi for me. Christmas mornings were made even better when I unwrapped the Hoth ion cannon and Snowspeeder toys. Playing with those models was incredible, and I thought that was about as good as it could ever get for Star Wars action at home. But as a gamer, I dreamed at the chance of piloting these amazing vehicles from the movies that we all loved so much. Sure, the Atari 2600 Empire Strikes Back game from 1982 was about as basic as it can get, but even with the limited graphics of the time, it still managed to capture a slice of that Star Wars magic. The next year, Star Wars hit the arcade with its 3D wireframe graphics and that epic Death Star trench run. While those graphics look so primitive today, at the time, it felt like stepping into a galaxy far, far away. Fast forward over a decade later to 1994, when LucasArts began development of Shadows of the Empire in partnership with Industrial Light and Magic and Silicon Graphics, before the final chipset design of the Nintendo 64 was even completed. The expectations for the game naturally were sky high, and the hype was strong in this one. So put the Millennium Falcon aside for a minute. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire on the Nintendo 64 features a whole fleet of different vehicles that are just as cool and unique in their own right. So join me in this video as we explore the intergalactic rides that are featured in this classic N64 game, as we get behind the wheel of these iconic Star Wars vehicles. Released in North America in 1996 by Nintendo, this game takes place between the events of The Empire Strikes Back and The Return of the Jedi, filling in the gap during a critical moment in the saga. The game follows Rendar, a smuggler and mercenary hired by the Rebel Alliance, as he tries to thwart the sinister plans of Prince Xizor, a power-hungry crime lord with ties to the Empire. Xizor himself is secretly plotting to take down Darth Vader and seize control of the Empire, all while capturing Leia Organa and crushing the rebellion. Dash's journey sees him navigate through dangerous missions, battling Imperial forces, bounty hunters, and eventually confronting the deadly Xizor in his Skyhook fortress. When you first pick up the Nintendo 64 controller with its analog joystick, you immediately know this is some next-level stuff. The 3D graphics with their mid-90s fuzzy textures was taking you into a whole new era, and the sound! Shadows of the Empire used perfect digital samples of the original music and sound effects lifted straight from the movies. Everything looked, felt, and sounded like you were actually in the Star Wars universe. But as much as Shadows of the Empire captured the essence of the movies, it wasn't just about reliving the events in the films. The game's new characters, vehicles, and moments fit seamlessly into the expanded Star Wars canon. Now, before we dive further into the vehicles that made it all so special, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is always here for a quick retro gaming break whenever you need it. I appreciate your support, since it's the only way YouTube will highlight my videos. Our first ride is in the Snowspeeder, right in the middle of the Battle of Hoth. The level opens with that backdrop of the icy tundra, and you'll immediately sense the weight and scale of those ginormous Imperial AT-AT walkers stomping across the battlefield. Flying the Snowspeeder wasn't just about speed, it was about tactics. You had to be precise with your harpoons to trip those walkers. And as a pilot, the Snowspeeder was always my favorite. I'd fly over the Hoth battlefield so many times just taking it all in. The thrill of reliving those unforgettable movie scenes, flying over and then under the walkers, was incredible. And the feeling of taking down one of those behemoths up close and personal was one of the most exhilarating moments I can remember in a game. But what made this level something special were the little touches, like the crystal clear John Williams score in the background. And for me, seeing those little flaps move up and down on your Snowspeeder when banking and turning tightly sent a shiver of joy down my spine with its authenticity, reminding me of playing with my Snowspeeder toy as a kid all of those years earlier. That attention to detail makes this game one to remember, and it's hard not to totally geek out and get lost in that experience. The second level takes us to the war-torn interior of the Rebel Alliance's Hoth base, and this level was also a visual treat, especially when you get an up-close look at the Millennium Falcon in the 3D world. Seeing the Falcon in all its glory with its unmistakable shape and weather details was another dream come true, and as you approach it, you can almost feel the vibrations of the blast from its engines, and then whoosh, it accelerates off with that unforgettable roar, soaring into the sky. The moment felt like something straight out of the movies, and it was hard not to be in awe. But the real challenge comes near the end of the level, when you face off against an AT-ST boss. And while that's not a vehicle that you can pilot in the game, it feels just as imposing as its movie counterpart. I couldn't help but think how cool it would have been to hijack the AT-ST, Grand Theft Auto style, taking it for a joyride, stomping through the Empire's forces, and laying waste to everything in sight. But sadly, you have to take it down the hard way. Next up, you hop into Dash Rendar's ship, a new vehicle called the Outrider, in a thrilling escape from a pursuing Star Destroyer into an asteroid field. This level is a button-mashing blastathon as your ship weaves through asteroids where you gun down a whole pack of TIE fighters and even TIE bombers as you outrun the Imperial forces. That moment when you see the Outrider in full 3D detail in the expanse of space is breathtaking. And then that magical soundtrack kicks in, a perfect rendition of the theme from Empire Strikes Back. That music will forever be etched into my brain, and even today, each time I watch Empire, I'm instantly transported back to the intensity of this level. Next, we move on to the junkyard of Ord Mantell, where you get a first-hand look at the broken-down ship of the robotic bounty hunter IG-88 that was damaged when he crossed paths with Boba Fett while on the hunt for Han Solo. You only see his ship from a distance, but it looks massive, and the industrial environment sets the tone for the tension to come. Later in this level, you'll have a showdown with IG-88 himself, which is a great example of Shadows of the Empire, blending classic Empire lore with its own narrative. Now, we've got to talk about the speeder level in Hunting the Assassins. Was it ambitious? Sure. But for me, this one kind of fell flat. I was expecting something more like the speeder bike scene on Endor in Return of the Jedi. And while the concept of zooming across the desert landscape in a swoop bike should have been thrilling, the execution just felt off. The controls were a bit awkward, and the landscape was pretty flat and uninspiring. It was probably my least favorite vehicle-based level in the whole game. But it still had some interesting moments when you'd race across the dunes, jumping over Sarlacc pits, and bashing Xizor's minions into the walls, causing them to crash out in a ball of flames. Now, on the other hand, as you continue the search for Boba Fett, you come across a jetpack that helps you cross some big chasms that, to me, were some of the most innovative parts of the game. Mastering the jetpack controls was a bit tricky, but still fun. It felt like swinging on a pendulum in midair as you'd hover, dip, and power your way up and across platforms. It added a whole new layer of how you'd navigate the 3D world and was super unique, since it took full advantage of the N64's analog controller. And just then, you stumble across the Imperial Lambda-class T-4A shuttle. Seeing this beauty take off in the cavernous 3D hangar for the first time was a treat. The texture mapping on the shuttle was gorgeous, and the level design made you feel like you're standing right in the middle of an actual Star Wars space opera playing out before your eyes. But the real highlight came at the end of the level, where you face off against the notorious Boba Fett. The battle occurs in a vertically tiered arena, and at one point, I almost caught motion sickness from the movement of that jetpack in the realistic perspective. And just when you think you've defeated him, the galaxy's baddest bounty hunter jumps into his ship, the Slave One, and the second phase of the battle begins. That menacing ship flying right up into your face was like stepping into a deleted scene from the film, and was a super impressive experience to see it up close in all of its detail. Now, after a few more not-so-impressive levels on foot, you make your final assault on Xizor's Skyhook space station. This level goes all out and brings it. As another Imperial Star Destroyer joins into the battle, you have full 3D control as you pilot the Outrider, and can rocket past the immense battleship, skimming just meters above its surface. The Rebel fleet then sends in its X-Wing fighters to cover your 6, and the Millennium Falcon swoops in to clear you a path as you dodge heavy fire and launch photon torpedoes at the autocannons defending the Skyhook. The atmosphere in this level is just so off the charts and hits a crescendo as the music swells to the epic proportions, with a full orchestra singing and backing up the cinematic action. And finally, you enter the Skyhook itself, flying through the interior corridors to deliver the final blow that takes out the reactor core, leading to a glorious explosion. It's the kind of finale you'd expect from a Star Wars movie game, and is pulled off with incredible panache, and trust me, the feeling of this experience in a game was hard to beat back in 1996. So in conclusion, from the Snowspeeders of Hoth to the final assault on the Skyhook, Shadows of the Empire delivered some of the most memorable Star Wars vehicle experiences of its time. While not every level hit the mark, the vehicles you could pilot provided an unforgettable ride through the Star Wars universe. Shadows of the Empire gave us a chance to experience Star Wars like never before, and the vehicles were a huge part of that. So, if you haven't played it, I highly recommend going back and taking it out for a spin. But that's just what I think. What other Star Wars vehicles do you wish were included in this game? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your views. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. And if you're new here, I'd like to welcome you to the channel and invite you to subscribe for more feel-good retro gaming content. Alright my friends, this is the Retro Gaming Boss signing out, reminding you to keep your games old school. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.